Welcome to the End Zone. Let's move the chains and go over the final AP Top 25 rankings, give you my reactions on them. I had a couple complaints about these final rankings that don't really add up for me, and trying to look at this objectively. So let's get right into it. The AP rankings don't really matter, I guess, anymore now that the college football playoff rankings are here, but let's dive right in. 25 through 20. So San Jose State. I don't think that they're a better team than Buffalo. San Jose State did lose to Ball State, so they're right underneath there. 24, they did have an undefeated regular season, but you can make the case that San Jose State should be out of the top 25 or at 25, and Buffalo be above. And Buffalo's, I feel that you can make the case just that Buffalo is a better team than San Jose State. 22, Miami. I understand why they are behind USC. That would actually be a really good matchup, but Miami lost to number 20, Oklahoma State, in the bowl game, and just above Ball State. And Ball State's had a really incredible season this year. Just one slight issue. I like these rankings except for San Jose State. I think that they could be at 25. Now let's look at 19 through 15 as a Oklahoma State. They have the loss to Texas during the regular season, and Texas had the win over Colorado in the bowl game. That was really impressive. Colorado had some players out, but I think Texas deserves that 19th spot. They had a pretty decent season. Then we're talking about here's where some of the problems arrive. So 18 UNC lost to Texas A&M. UNC was pretty spotty this year, although I think that they would have handily beat Texas A&M at full strength. Honestly, I understand why they could put UNC here because of that game, but if UNC is at full strength, I don't think any college football analyst, fan, coach, players could tell me that they would lose to Texas A&M, because that game was really down to the wire basically until the end, and UNC was playing with majority backups. So I understand putting them at 18 if you don't really care about the opt-outs, but UNC makes it out here at 18. And Liberty, after beating Coastal, they are at 17 with a single. I don't understand this, because they have the head-to-head in the bowl game, and that was a pretty important bowl game. 17 behind Coastal. I don't get that. And then you could even make a case that they could go at it with Iowa, who's ranked above them, 6-2, did not play in a bowl game, so I guess you really can't penalize them for putting Iowa at 16. 15, Raging Cajuns. They've been a fun team this season. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to see them play Coastal head-to-head. They have Coastal ahead of Louisiana Lafayette, and Louisiana Lafayette actually has the win over Iowa State. I'm surprised that they aren't ranked higher because of that. They didn't really get that respect earlier in the year, but that's just how they saw them. So let's look at 14 through 11. Again, Coastal, I don't think that they should be ranked this high after watching them multiple games this season. They have the win over BYU, who's ranked ahead of them, but that was a difficult situation there because that was kind of a last spur of the moment game time decision to have that game even being played, and Coastal won at home. Then you have 13 Florida. So Florida kind of feels like a North Carolina team at full strength. You can make a case that Oklahoma game would be closer. I still think Oklahoma would win, but Florida is a good football team. So is North Carolina, and I just don't understand, because Florida gets blown out by Oklahoma and has a bad loss against LSU and lost all their games late in the season, but is ranked at 13, wasn't really super penalized. I guess they acknowledged the opt-outs for Florida, but didn't acknowledge the opt-outs for North Carolina. Doesn't seem fair to me. And then Indiana. Indiana is a team that I think is a top 15 team with Penix, with their starting quarterback, with a playmaker who totally changes this offense. But guess what? They don't have him anymore, injured, and they lose to Ole Miss. So this is a team that, to me, top 15 with a healthy quarterback, top 20, 15 to 20 range with, the backups. And it's unfortunate that had to happen. But if you're basing this team off of with Michael Penix, with healthy players on the field, then yes, I understand this ranking. But I think that without them, and you're ranking some of these other teams without their players, then they don't deserve that number 12 spot. Now let's begin 10 through 6. So here are some more problems. Northwestern here at number 10. I get it. They put up a good fight against Ohio State, lost in the Big Ten Championship, handled Auburn. Hey, it makes sense here. I think they deserve that number 10 spot. Number 9, Iowa State. You can make a case that they could be over Cincinnati, but also Iowa State still has that loss to the Raging Cajuns down here at 15, but they still have had a historic season, an incredible program win over Oregon and getting a major bowl game win. So huge for Iowa State and just a great season for Matt Campbell. Number 8, Cincinnati. Listen, this is a Cincinnati team that was out some of their best players and barely lost to Georgia. Some could argue that they gave that game away and could have possibly won that with better clock management, better play calling. But Cincinnati barely loses to one of the better teams in the SEC. I think that's a great look for this Cincinnati program. Moving on to Georgia at number 7. Listen, I like this placement. JT Daniels, one of my favorite quarterbacks in college football. I talked a lot about him in the preseason, how I thought he was going to be a star. A lot of people doubted me. A lot of people doubted JT Daniels. I think it was mostly Georgia fans who have never actually watched JT Daniels play at USC. They just took a quick glance at his stats and they had made that decision prior and they wanted Jamie Newman to be so good. Listen, JT Daniels is incredible. We'll do more videos on him and why I love him so much as Georgia's quarterback. Now here is where the disrespect comes in. Oklahoma, number 6. This is a top 4 team. I know they found their footing late in the season, but if you're talking about power rankings, if you're not really looking at the body of work, if you're just saying, hey, these are the best teams, these are the power rankings, Oklahoma, first of all, they demolished Florida, and I think they would have beaten Florida if Florida was at full strength because this defense for Oklahoma is so good. A lot of people don't watch Oklahoma football. Their defense is totally different. It's not the Oklahoma defense you're used to, and their offense basically feels the same with Spencer Rattler now at quarterback as a star. I think that Oklahoma should be number 4 and swapping places with Texas A&M. So number 5, also disrespect. Listen, I know people hate and love to hate on Notre Dame, but this Notre Dame team lost by less points than Ohio State. They were down by less points than Ohio State at halftime. Notre Dame's defense is one of the best in the country. Their offense just doesn't have what it takes to make those big plays and beat the big boys. I think that this team is worse than Oklahoma, but Notre Dame, no doubt in my mind, is better than the number 4 team on this chart, Texas A&M. Now, Texas A&M loses to Bama, win over Florida, who's lost 3 straight to LSU, Bama, and Oklahoma. Close in a lot of games, including a depleted North Carolina football team that was whistle to whistle until late. A&M pulled away late, and Notre Dame ran away right after half. And the Notre Dame defense is much better, in my opinion, than Texas A&M's. I like Ian Book better than Kellen Mond. Maybe the run game for A&M has a little advantage, but A&M and Notre Dame are so comparable. It's crazy. These two teams are very much similar. I think Notre Dame has the edge. And then 3 through 1, this totally makes sense. Ohio State, it just shows you the separation of the best teams in college football. Alabama is far and above everyone else. Ohio State can't compete with Alabama. I know that they lost some players and it could have been a little bit different, but I don't think it would have been that much different. This Alabama team is so dominant, so good that they're better than everybody else far and above in college football in the landscape. I'd love to know your opinions down below. Thanks for watching the End Zone. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we can move the chains.